You ever notice how people cling to chaos like it's a blanket? They get addicted to the pain, the drama, the endless cycle of trying and failing, of fighting battles that were never theirs to begin with. They say they want peace, but deep down, they don't know what to do with it. Because peace means silence, and silence forces you to hear the truth you've been running from. That's why when something ends, when the curtain finally falls, most people don't feel relief, they feel fear. Fear of what comes next. Fear of who they are without the struggle. The end is not destruction, it's liberation. People panic when they hear the word over. They tremble when they hear finished. They act like life has pulled the rug out from under their feet, as if the curtain's closing means the whole play was a waste of time. But what they never want to admit is that the end of one act is the only way for the next to even begin. When something dies, it doesn't mean you're buried. It often means you've been planted. And yet, people scream, fight, and cling to the ashes of what's already burned down. They call it love, loyalty, commitment. But look closer, it's just fear in a mask. Fear of stepping into the unknown. Fear of being free from the chains that made them feel safe. Think about it. The word over isn't a grave, it's a doorway. It's the difference between a cage and an open field. But most people prefer the cage because at least in the cage, they know the shape of their walls. They decorate their chains, polish their locks, and convince themselves they're okay. Because freedom, oh, freedom is terrifying. Freedom means choice, risk, danger. It means no one to blame but yourself. That's why when life declares, it's over now, it's not punishing you, it's rescuing you. It's tearing away the illusion you were holding on to, forcing you to see the truth you kept ignoring. You want liberation. It rarely comes with gentle hands. It comes with fire, with storms, with endings. You prayed for peace, but peace doesn't grow in a swamp of lies. So the swamp has to dry out. You begged for strength. But strength isn't born in comfort. It comes from standing in the ruins of everything you thought would last forever. Life doesn't hand out blessings wrapped in pretty ribbons. Sometimes the blessing comes wrapped in loss, silence, and goodbye. But people don't like to see it that way. They see the collapse, not the space it creates. They see the death, not the birth that follows. They see destruction, but they miss the liberation hiding behind the rubble? Have you noticed how heavy it feels when you carry what's already dead? A relationship that's long gone, a dream that expired years ago, a version of yourself that no longer fits who you've become. It's like dragging a corpse around and then wondering why you're exhausted. And when life says, it's all over now, it's not mocking you. It's dropping the weight off your shoulders. But what do? You run back, dig through the ashes, and cry because the fire didn't spare your favorite illusions. You don't see that you've been set free. You only see what you can't cling to anymore. The truth is, destruction only exists if you insist on keeping the pieces. Liberation happens the moment you stop trying to glue back the glass. Stop pretending the wreckage can stand again. You call it an ending, but it's really a release. You didn't lose something. You were delivered from it. That's the paradox. The scariest goodbyes are usually the most merciful ones. Life isn't cruel when it takes. It's precise. It cuts away what poisons you. Even when you'd rather drink the poison than feel the emptiness. People get addicted to their prisons. They'd rather sit in chains than walk into freedom. Because freedom doesn't come with instructions. But that's the beauty of it. The moment life declares it's over, you've been handed a blank page. A blank page frightens people more than a tragic ending. But it's in the blank page where the liberation lies. That's where you're no longer bound by what was written before. You're free to carve out something new, something truer, something that doesn't rot in your hands. So when you hear, it's over, don't hear destruction. Hear liberation. Hear the sound of locks breaking, walls collapsing, masks falling. Hear the silence that comes when the lies stop speaking. Hear the freedom in not needing to carry what was never meant for you. The end is not destruction. It's the first breath after suffocating. It's the light breaking in after endless nights. It's not punishment. It's mercy. It's not the grave. It's the escape. People think survival is about holding on, gripping tight, never letting go. But that's the real trick life plays. Sometimes survival is about surrender, not waving the white flag out of weakness, but finally admitting the battle you've been fighting is already lost. And maybe, just maybe, it was never yours to fight in the first place. You keep throwing punches at shadows, wasting your breath on ghosts, convincing yourself that persistence is the same as purpose. But persistence without purpose is just punishment. And the funny part, you're the jailer and the prisoner at the same time. When something is declared over, your instinct is to resist. No, not yet. I can fix this. I can rebuild it. I can make it right. You bargain with ashes, trying to coax fire out of dust. But deep down, you know, it's gone. The foundation cracked a long time ago, and you were too afraid to see it. You painted over the rot, sprayed perfume over decay, put on your best smile as everything crumbled underneath. That's the kind of denial humans are addicted to. They don't mourn reality. They mourn the fantasy they built in their heads. And when life rips that fantasy away, they don't cry because they lost the truth. They cry because they lost the lie that made them comfortable. Look closely at the word over. It's sharp, isn't it? It slices. It doesn't negotiate, doesn't ask permission. It comes uninvited, takes its seat, and declares its verdict. And there you are, still clutching scraps, still trying to argue with inevitability. You mistake that resistance for strength, but it's not strength. It's fear disguised as courage. Strength is in the acceptance. Strength is in the silence when you stop fighting what's already done. Strength is walking away, even if your legs tremble. That's what people don't understand. They think surrender is losing. But surrender, real surrender, is freedom dressed in humility. Ever wonder why endings feel so violent? It's because they're surgery without anesthesia. The lies, the illusions, the attachments, they're carved out of you in one brutal cut. You scream, you bleed, you shake, but without that cut, you rot. Without that cut, you remain tied to a corpse, chained to something that no longer breathes. Life doesn't wait for you to be ready, because if it did, you'd never move. You'd cling to the familiar forever, even if it was slowly killing you. So it ends it for you. It tears it away, and all you see is the blood, not the healing that follows. And here's the thing. Most people think endings are punishments. They're not. They're protection. You don't realize what was hidden behind that door until it slams shut. You don't realize the weight of what you carried until it's ripped from your hands. You call it loss, but maybe it's rescue. You call it heartbreak, but maybe it's detox. You call it failure. But maybe it's the one chance you had to stop chasing something that was never meant for you. The pain isn't proof that you're cursed. The pain is proof that something poisonous has been cut out of your life. But you'd rather keep the poison, wouldn't you? Because poison is familiar. It tastes bitter, but you know the taste. Freedom tastes strange, unsettling, too clean. You crave the chaos you're used to, even though it breaks you down. That's why surrender feels impossible. Because surrender means you no longer control the narrative. It means you accept that life, fate, God, whatever name you give it, knows more than you. And that terrifies you. But here's the paradox. The moment you let go of your illusion of control, you find a kind of power you never knew existed. You think the fight defines you, but sometimes it's the release that does. Sometimes the bravest act is to unclench your fists, stop screaming at closed doors, and walk into the unknown with empty hands. People will laugh. They'll call you weak. They'll say you gave up. Let them. They're still in their cages, still hugging their chains, still pretending broken things are whole. You'll be free. You'll understand what they never willed. That when something is over, it's not your job to resurrect it. It's your job to rise from it. Surrender isn't the end of the story. It's the tearing of the old page, the crack in the script, the silence before something new begins. The moment you stop fighting, you stop bleeding. The moment you release, you breathe again. You thought you'd drown without it, but now you realize you were drowning because of it. Life doesn't ask if you're ready to let go. It rips it away and dares you to see the gift inside the grief. And only when you stop resisting do you finally understand that surrender isn't death. It's the beginning of life without chains. You know what's funny about silence? It screams louder than words. When someone who used to talk to you every day suddenly goes quiet, when their energy changes, when their face looks calm, but their eyes tell a different story, that's not nothing. That's a sign. That's a broadcast without sound. But people ignore it because they only trust what they can hear, what they can touch, what they can measure. They don't realize that the most important warnings, the most dangerous truths, don't come with alarms or flashing lights. They come quietly, almost gently, like a whisper that keeps echoing in your head long after it's gone. That's how life delivers messages. Not in your comfort zone. Not when you're expecting it, but in strange shifts, in patterns you can't explain. One day everything feels fine. The next it feels heavy, dark, like the air itself is warning you. You walk into a room and feel tension without a word spoken. You meet someone and their smile doesn't match the weight behind their stare. That's not paranoia. It's perception. It's your soul detecting what your mind is too distracted to notice. And if you're honest with yourself, you've felt it before. That shiver down your spine, that gut feeling, that unshakable sense that something isn't right. But instead of listening, you push it away. You laugh at yourself, call it imagination. Keep moving like nothing happened until the disaster hits. Then you say, I knew it. I felt it coming. The tragedy is, most people wait for the explosion before they believe the warning. They wait for betrayal before they admit they saw the signs. They wait for the collapse before they admit the cracks were always there. Because humans are addicted to lies they tell themselves. Lies that keep them comfortable. Lies like, no, it's not that bad. No, they wouldn't do that to me. No, it's just stress. It'll pass. Lies are cozy, warm blankets in a freezing night. But blankets don't stop the storm. They just delay the chill. And then, when the storm crashes down, people cry as if they weren't given clues. But the clues were everywhere, weren't they? In the silence, in the shift, in the unease they felt and ignored. Every great fall is preceded by signs. Always. Nothing collapses without first trembling. No mask slips without a crack appearing. But people don't look closely, because looking closely means they'd have to act. They'd have to change. They'd have to change. They'd have to confront truths they don't want to face. And facing the truth is scarier than living the lie. Because the truth demands you step out of the comfort you've built, even if it's killing you slowly. The silence before chaos is not empty. It's heavy. It's the pause before the scream, the breath before the plunge. That's when you should pay attention. That's when you should sharpen your senses, not dull them. But people numb themselves with distractions. We drown out the whispers with noise, fill the void with entertainment, gossip, shallow pleasures. They silence their own soul, so they don't have to hear the warnings it's screaming. And by the time they stop to listen, it's too late. The fire has already started. The damage is already done. But here's the thing. Warnings aren't punishments. They're gifts. They're the universe reaching out, giving you a chance to prepare. to escape, to strengthen. If you ignore them, the fall feels like cruelty. If you listen, the fall feels like strategy. One choice makes you a victim. The other makes you ready. That's the difference between people who break and people who rise. One was asleep when the signs came. The other was awake, alert, watching, waiting. Don't you see? Every silence, every uneasy feeling, every crack in the illusion, it's all a message. It's not random. It's not meaningless. It's the signal you've been trained to overlook. And if you keep overlooking it, don't act surprised when the collapse comes. Because it didn't arrive unannounced. It knocked, it whispered, it shook, it waited. The only reason it feels sudden is because you refused to listen when it was still soft. Funny thing about blessings. People think the arrive wrapped in gold, glowing with light, announced with trumpets and banners. They think good news always feels good. But that's the biggest trick, isn't it? The greatest gifts rarely walk into your life dressed like gifts. They show up disguised as loss, chaos, betrayal, or pain. They sneak in through moments that feel unbearable. Moments that make you question everything. And because it hurts, you assume it's punishment. But what if it isn't? What if it's preparation? What if the pain is the wrapping paper hiding the treasure underneath? See, before something big enters your life, everything that doesn't belong to that blessing has to leave. And the leaving never feels gentle. It feels violent. People walk away. Things fall apart. Your routines collapse. Your comfort zone burns down. And you're left standing there, wondering why life is stripping you bare. But have you noticed? Every time you lose something you thought you couldn't live without, you survive anyway. Every time someone betrays you, they make space for someone better. Every time life closes one door, it eventually cracks open another. But most people don't notice because they're too busy crying at the ashes to see what's growing from them. You ever notice how people treat tomorrow like it's some kind of safety net? Like it's guaranteed, wrapped up in a neat little box with a bow, waiting just for them. They say, I'll start tomorrow. I'll change tomorrow. I'll fix it tomorrow. But here's the little secret nobody likes to admit. Tomorrow isn't yours yet. It's a rumor, a maybe, a shadow that hasn't stepped into the room. And sometimes, just sometimes, before tomorrow even knocks, something or someone slides a message under your door, a whisper, a warning, a promise. And if you're smart, you don't wait for the sun to rise to figure it out. You read it now. You feel it now. People walk around like they've signed some kind of contract with tomorrow, like it's locked in, stamped, sealed. See you then. But there's no signature, no paper, no deal. Tomorrow doesn't owe you a damn thing. It's not in your pocket. It's not in your bank. It's not tucked away somewhere safe. It's a ghost, a possibility. And yet, everyone walks like it's a guarantee. They delay. They stall. They play this little game of later, stacking their dreams, their apologies, their plans like they're saving leftovers for a meal that may never come. You know why tomorrow feels safe? Because it's not here yet. It's perfect in the distance. It can't hurt you, can't test you, can't disappoint you. It's the great escape hatch for the lazy, the nervous, the scared. Tomorrow I'll speak up. Tomorrow I'll start. Tomorrow I'll change. But you notice tomorrow never arrives as they picture it. And when it does arrive, it's called today. And they treat it the same way. Push it forward again, kick the can down the road, all the while thinking the road never ends. Here's the ugly truth. Tomorrow is just a trick of the mind, a shiny illusion to keep you comfortable, to keep you from feeling the teeth of time. But time doesn't care about your comfort. It's moving whether you crawl, run, or stand still. And if you think you can bargain with it, well, let's just say you'll find out it's not much of a negotiator. I've seen people lose everything in the space between I'll do it now and I'll do it tomorrow. That gap, it's a graveyard. It's where dreams rot, where promises decay, where chances choke in the dark. Because the second you push something to tomorrow, you've already told yourself it's not worth enough to do now. And the more you do that, the easier it gets to throw everything into that black hole of later. Until one day, you realize later has run out. Some people only learn this when tomorrow is ripped away from them. A phone call, a closed door, a heartbeat that stops. That's when it hits. There is no later. There's only the seconds you have right now. And the sick taste of all the seconds you've wasted. They look back and see the pile of things they swore they'd do soon. And all they have left are the scraps of what could have been. But you've got a choice. You can treat tomorrow like it's a loan you might never get approved for. You can treat every second of today like it's the last coin you've got to spend. Because if you live like tomorrow's guaranteed, you'll get sloppy. You'll start leaving things undone, unsaid, unfelt. And one day, you'll wake up and realize there's no time left to catch up. The real danger isn't that tomorrow might not come. The real danger is that it might come exactly as expected, and you'll show up unprepared, with nothing in your hands but excuses. Funny thing about storms, they don't always start with thunder. People expect chaos to announce itself, big, loud, obvious. But the most dangerous storms, they creep in quietly. A shift in the air, a smell you can't place, a shadow that wasn't there before. Warnings aren't meant to dazzle you. They're meant to slip past your guard. Because if they're too loud, too bright, you'll see them coming and run. But if they're quiet, you won't notice until it's too late, or you'll notice and pretend you didn't. That's how it works when something big is about to hit you. You get these little nudges, strange conversations, odd looks, unexplained feelings that make the hairs on your neck stand up. Maybe it's a dream. Maybe it's a sentence you overhear in the street. Maybe it's that voice inside your head you keep trying to shut up. You can't quite explain it, but you feel it. And the smarter ones, they listen. The rest, they laugh it off, thinking life's just being weird again. You see, people think warnings should be crystal clear, spelled out in big flashing letters. Danger ahead. But that's not how it goes. The real ones, they're subtle. They demand you pay attention. They test how tuned in you are to the world around you. It's like someone whispering in a crowded room. Most won't hear it. But the one who does, that's the one the message was meant for. And you want to know why they come quietly. Because the universe, fate, God, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't waste time on people who aren't listening. A storm doesn't need to send you an engraved invitation. It just leaves a trail, a few breadcrumbs. And if you're too busy scrolling, whining, or sleeping through your own life, you won't see them. You'll be smiling, sipping your drink, thinking everything's fine until the roof blows off. The truth is, people don't like quiet warnings because they can't brag about them. You can't show them off. You can't post a picture of a feeling or a hunch, so they ignore them. waiting for something more cinematic, but the quiet ones. Those are the sharpest blades. They slide right in under your skin without you realizing you've been cut. When something or someone is coming for you, the signs won't always make sense. They might even look harmless, maybe even good at first. That's the trick. That's how the best storms work. They make you comfortable before they tear you apart. And if you're not trained to spot the shift, you'll welcome the thing that's about to ruin you. So when you feel that itch in your gut, when the air around you tastes different, when a sentence hits you harder than it should, don't just shrug it off. That's not random. That's not nothing. That's the tap on the shoulder before the curtain drops. And if you turn too slow, you'll miss your only chance to move before it all comes crashing down. Regret, now, that's a funny little parasite. It doesn't show up all at once like some monster in the dark. No, it waits. Patient, quiet. It sits there in the corner of your mind, feeding off all the chances you didn't take, all the warnings you ignored, all the moments you thought you could put off until tomorrow. And the best part, by the time you realize it's there, it's already too fat and comfortable to get rid of. A message ignored today is the perfect breeding ground for regret. It starts so small, you hear something, feel something, maybe even see it, but you decide it's not important enough to act on. You're busy. You're distracted. You think you'll deal with it later. But later, well, later is the trick. Later never comes in the way you think it will. Later turns into weeks, months, years, and then one day you see the full picture. And suddenly, that tiny little whisper you ignored feels like it was screaming the whole time. People like to think they're immune to regret if they meant well or didn't know better. But that's the thing. Most people do know better. They just don't want to admit it. Because if they admit it, then they have to do something about it. And doing something, that's risky. It's uncomfortable. So they shove it in a drawer, lock it up, and hope it never comes back. But it does. It always does. Regret has this way of showing up in the quiet moments. Not when you're busy. Not when the world's loud, but when you're alone, staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. That's when it pulls up a chair and says, "Hey, remember me. Remember what you could have done. Remember what you should have done." And the worst part, You can't argue with it. You can't negotiate. It's not interested in excuses. It just keeps replaying that moment you didn't take seriously, over and over. Like a broken record you can't shut off. And the thing about warnings, whether they come from people, from God, from the universe, they don't knock twice. If you ignore it the first time, it's gone. That's it. And you don't realize how valuable it was until the moment passes and you're stuck dealing with the fallout. That's when regret sinks its teeth in and doesn't let go. You think ignoring a message will save you from fear. You think putting it off will make life easier. But all it does is trade one discomfort for another. A short, sharp action now or a long, slow burn later. And believe me, regret burns slow. It's the kind of fire that doesn't even give you the satisfaction of seeing the flames. It just smolders quietly while it eats through everything you've built. The thing that makes regret so dangerous is how personal it feels. You can't blame anyone else for it. Sure, you can try, you can point fingers, you can tell yourself a nice little bedtime story about why it wasn't your fault, but deep down, you know you had the chance, you saw the sign, and you chose to look away. And that truth, that's the weight you carry. That's the shadow that follows you around no matter how bright the sun is. You ever notice how people only start running when they see the clock? As if time suddenly matters the moment the numbers are staring them in the face. But what about the times when there is no clock, no ticking, no deadline stamped in red ink, just this feeling, that quiet little pressure in your chest telling you something's coming? Most people ignore that. They don't like urgency when they can't measure it. If they can't see the seconds slipping away, they convince themselves they've got all the time in the world. But here's the joke. Urgency doesn't care if you see it or not. It's already moving. It's already counting down. Whether you're watching or sitting there, sipping coffee, pretending the world will wait for you. And when there's no clock to warn you, you can't predict when the hammer's going to drop. That's why it hits harder. No warning sirens, no flashing lights. Just boom. And you're standing in the rubble, wondering how you didn't see it coming. See, urgency without a visible clock is dangerous because it tricks you into thinking you're safe. You wake up, do your little routines, scroll through your little feeds, and all the while, something's moving toward you. Something with a deadline you'll never see. That's why the smartest people, the dangerous people, they act before they ever need to. They trust that gut punch feeling, that instinct that whispers, a move now, because they know by the time the clock shows itself, it's too late. The funny thing is, people think acting early is overreacting. They think you're paranoid, dramatic, maybe even crazy. And they'll laugh until the moment comes when they're caught flat-footed, and you're already halfway out the door, watching them scramble. Urgency favors the prepared, but you can't be prepared if you're waiting for proof. When the clock is unseen, you can't plan for the perfect moment. You can't wait for all the pieces to line up just right. You have to move in the dark, trusting the feeling that something's shifting, something's brewing, and that's uncomfortable. People hate moving without guarantees, but that's exactly why so many of them get blindsided. They wait until the proof is undeniable, and by then, all that's left is damage control. The cruel part. Urgency without a visible clock forces you to gamble. You could act now and maybe be wrong, or you could wait and find out just how wrong you really were. And if you lose that bet, well, let's just say the bill comes due in a way you can't bargain with, because time doesn't take IOUs. That's the real trick. Learning to live as if the unseen clock is always ticking. Because it is, whether you acknowledge it or not, whether you like it or not. And every second you spend convincing yourself you're safe is another second that clock eats away without mercy. People forget that the scariest countdowns are the ones you never hear. Those are the ones that don't give you a chance to beg or bargain or brace yourself. Those are the ones that leave you blinking, confused, wondering when it all started. It's funny, isn't it? How the smallest signs carry the heaviest weight. Not the big, dramatic ones people love to talk about. No, those are easy. A thunderclap in the middle of a sunny day, a door slammed in your face, a sudden scream in a quiet room. Anyone can spot those. But the real messages, the ones that matter, they whisper. They hide in the corner of your vision. They tap your shoulder when no one's looking, and if you turn too slow, they're gone. Most people, they don't notice them. They're too busy chasing noise, mistaking volume for importance. They look for grand gestures and flashing lights ignoring the way the air changes just before the storm. They don't feel the shift in the room when certain words are spoken. They don't catch the way someone's eyes dart at the wrong moment. But that's where the truth is. That's where the warnings lie. The weight of small signs comes from their subtlety. They don't announce themselves. They don't wait for you to be ready. They slip in under the radar, disguised as nothing until you're looking back later, thinking, that was it. That was the moment everything changed. And by then, the choice you could have made is long gone. People underestimate the tiny signals because they want certainty. They want a banner in the sky that says, "This is important. Pay attention." But life doesn't work like that. Life speaks in half steps and coded glances. It hands you clues like scraps of paper, expecting you to piece them together before the match gets struck. And if you don't, well, small signs have a way of becoming big consequences. You ever notice how animals pick up on it? A dog will start barking at a locked door for no reason. Birds scatter before you even hear the thunder. They don't need a full explanation. They don't wait for proof. They react because they feel the weight of something shifting. Humans used to be like that. Instinctual, sharp, but now they've traded instinct for convenience. And convenience makes you slow. The real danger of ignoring small signs is that they don't stop just because you refuse to see them. They keep stacking up, one on top of the other, until they're no longer small at all. By then, they've already built the wall you're about to run into. And when you hit it, you'll swear it came out of nowhere, but it didn't. It was built brick by brick, each one a moment you brushed off, a warning you laughed at, a detail you let slip. Sometimes the smallest sign is nothing more than a feeling, an unease in your stomach, a hesitation in someone's voice, the way a familiar place suddenly feels wrong. And you'll want to tell yourself it's nothing. You'll want to believe it's in your head, but ignoring it doesn't make it disappear. It just lets it grow in silence until it's ready to introduce itself on its own terms. The cruel thing is, small signs never come with instructions. They don't tell you what they mean. They just tap on the glass and wait to see what you'll do. And the people who learn to read them, who learn to move at the first whisper instead of the last shout, they're the ones who survive the storm before it even starts.